As a female that dropped out of high school and then returned to schooling later in life, do you have any advice for anyone who wants to drop out of school and that to follow their dreams?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Certainly in my position now as president of Reading Area Community College, I would not encourage anyone to drop out of high school. I was very fortunate that in my non-traditional path that I ended up earning my GED and getting back on track in higher education. But I certainly probably well, I'm certainly probably, but I'm certainly, I certainly would not encourage anyone to do it. However, I do encourage people to follow their dreams. Um, that is a special conversation I have with many students when they enter college and they say, well, I really love theater, but my family says, well, you're not gonna be able to get a job in theater. And to me, while that may or may not be true, I do tell people all the time that if they do what they love, the money will come. So I do think that's important. So it's kind of a two-sided answer. Don't drop out of high school, but yes, of course, always follow your dreams.
As the president of RAC, there are a lot of people that report to you. What leadership skills are valuable in your position?
I think the first skill is to be able to have a vision of what you want the organization to be, what you want it to look like, and what you want it to have as outcomes. Also, coaching people, motivating people, and probably one of the most important things, especially in our new virtual world, but it's always been essential, is communication. Making people feel that they know what's going on at the presidential level and at the leadership level. Many times people, even though we may think we communicate all the time, there's always an opportunity to communicate more.
And I appreciate that you highlighted that leadership isn't always being the president or the leader of the group. It can be in the small things as well.
Absolutely. And so one of small example, and it's of course a little bit different in this virtual world, but when we would have our open houses, new student orientation, and we'd have a few hundred students brand new to this institution, and many of them, a little bit with the butterflies in the stomach, a little bit nervous when I share with them my story that I did drop out of high school, and that when I did go back and get my GED, that I started at a community college, and that I was terrified as a high school dropout to walk back in to an institution that I thought, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be accepted. And I remember that feeling vividly, and I share that with all the students every time I get a chance to tell the story, because I tell them if I can do it, they can do it. Because after I started at my community college, I went on to earn of course, my associate's degree, a bachelor's in business administration, a master's in business administration, went to law school at night while I worked for the Department of Defense, and also earned a doctorate in higher education. And I tell them that it's not because I'm smarter than them. It's hard work, it's perseverance, and it's showing up. But if I can do it, they can do it. And then I also have a huge poster board with my office phone number, and I tell them to take out their cell phones and take a picture of it as I stand there and hold it up. And I said, don't quit. If you feel like things are getting tough, whether it is a hard paper or finances or just whatever it is, you call my office and I will point you to the resources to help.
Who's a person in your own life who inspired you to become a leader?
I would say my grandmother, Helen. So she was definitely my best friend. And while we had our own family business, she did all the book work. She made sure everything was taken care of from the financial standpoint to finding us a new home when we decided to move. So we all lived together. So I lived with my grandparents, my mother, and stepfather, and my sister, and we always all lived together. So it was a very close connection with my grandmother, and watching her help the business succeed from the back end. She wasn't the front person. That was my grandfather, but she was the person who made sure it was successful behind the scenes. And her commitment to the business, but also her grace. There was something about her that when you saw her, she never had a bad word to say about anyone. She just lit up a room. And I've always admired her grace. And I try to carry that grace with me in as a person, but also, of course, in my professional life as well.
There are many characteristics that leaders possess, and confidence is one of them. How has possessing confidence helped you in your endeavors?
That's a really good question. That one I had to think about a little bit, and not because I feel like I've always had a lot of confidence, even as a very young person. It wasn't arrogance, and I think that's a really important trait. I make sure to never get to the point where I feel that I'm better than anybody else. The confidence is always from just within, of wanting to do it. And I think, and that'll go hand in hand with a couple other comments I'll probably get to in a minute, but that's goes hand in hand with the work ethic of, if you work hard, you're going to be successful. Work hard, work smart, but showing up, we kind of joke around here, we suit up and we show up, no matter what it is. And I've always had that ingrained confidence that if I put my mind to it, I'm going to be successful. And so, yeah, the confidence is important, but it's also really important not to get arrogant, because I've seen some very high level leaders fall because of arrogance and thinking that they were untouchable.
You are in a very different place than what you probably thought you would be many, many years ago.
Yeah.
What obstacles did you have to overcome to get where you are today?
I actually, in looking back, I never really felt I had obstacles. So I've always looked at any challenges as just that: work hard, overcome the challenges. But I never got to a point where I said, "Well, there's an obstacle, I can't overcome that." I'm just not built that way. I always feel there is a way to get to an answer, or to a goal in that case. If you want it, there's a way to get to it, and it might take years,
Mm-hmm.
but it's I personally don't think anything's impossible.